Okay. Yeah, go, go.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's an issue with the audio here. I could hear you, David, when you spoke. I think it's connected to your AirPods. Um,
Can you
can you?
hear now?
I can hear you, yes, but
Yes,
not
I'm.
anyone
I'm
else.
going to take out the AirPods. Sorry.
Okay, so no, you're fine. So let's try this one more time. So if you go into your settings and then go to audio under mic, then select the regular microphone built into the computer. And I still can't hear you, so. I believe you're going to have to refresh your screen and come back in just a moment. Thanks for your patience, everybody. We will be on in just a second. We're bound to have some technical difficulties.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, you're good.
Yes, you're good.
Great.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Go.
Yes, you are good to go. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. We are streaming from the studio of Kyklada Press in the center of Athens. And with me in the studio is a wonderful group of individuals, artists, poets, and writers who will be sharing their words with you to grieve, remember, denounce, and demand accountability for the double standards shown by Western powers towards the ongoing genocide against Palestinians and the atrocities committed in Lebanon, Sudan, Myanmar, Congo, and many other places. We hope you will enjoy the reading and join us in this moment of grief and solidarity.
Hi everyone, I'll be reading a poem by Samur Abu Hawash, translated by Huda Fakhreddin, titled From the River to the Sea. Every street, every house, every room, every window, every balcony, every wall, every stone, every sorrow, every word, every letter, every whisper, every touch, every glance, every kiss, every tree, every spear of grass, every tear, every scream, every air, every hope, every secret, every well, every prayer, every song, every ballad, every book, every paper, every color, every ray, every cloud, every rain, every drop of rain, every drip of sweat, every lisp, every stutter, every yamma, mother, every yaba, father, every shadow, every light, every little hand that drew in a little notebook a tree or house or heart or a family of a father, a mother, siblings, and pets, every longing, every possibility, every letter between two lovers that arrived or didn't arrive, every gasp of love dispersed in the distant clouds, every moment of despair at every turn, every suitcase on top of every closet, every library, every shelf, every minaret, every rug, every bell toll in every church, every rosary, every holy praise, every arrival, every goodbye, every good morning, every thank God, every ala rasi, my pleasure, every hel an samai, leave me alone, every rock, every wave, every grain of sand, every hairdo, every mirror, every glance in every mirror, every cat, every meow, every happy donkey, every sad donkey's gaze, every pot, and every vapor rising from every pot, every scent, every bowl, every school cue, every school shoes, every ring of the bell, every blackboard, every piece of chalk, every school costume, every mabruk ma ijakum, congratulations on the baby, every يعود بسلامتك, condolences, every photograph, every person in every photograph, every niyalek, how lucky, every shtaqnalek, we missed you, every grain of wheat in every bird's gullet, every lock of hair, every hair knot, every hand, every foot, every football, every finger, every nail, every bicycle, every rider on every bicycle, every turn of air fanning from every bicycle, every bad joke, every mean joke, every laugh, every smile, every curse, every yearning, every fight, every sitti, grandma, every sidi, grandpa, every meadow, every flower, every tree, every grove, every olive, every orange, every plastic rose covered with dust on an abandoned counter, every portrait of a martyr hanging on a wall since forever, every gravestone, every surah, every verse, every hymn, every yalla tnam, every lullaby, every red teddy bear on every Valentine's Day, every clothesline, every hot skirt, every joyful dress, every torn trousers, every day spun water, every button, every nail, every song, every ballad, every mirror, every peg, every bench, every shelf, every dream, every illusion, every hope, every disappointment, every hand holding another hand, every hand alone, every scattered thought, every beautiful thought, every terrifying thought, every whisper, every touch, every street, every house, every room, every balcony, every eye, every tear, every word, every letter, every name, every voice, every name, every house, every name, every face, every name, every cloud, every name, every rose, every name, every spear of grass, every name, every wave, every grain of sand, every street, every kiss, every image, every eye, every tear, every yamma, every baba, every name, every name, every name, every name, every name, every name, all.
Rami Sabah, The Smell of Rotten Metal. One evening in July 2006, I opened the window and put my fingernails, which I hadn't cut in months, on the glass window pane. I bent over to bring my ear closer to both the small opening and my nail. I touched the glass window and compared the sound of the falling Israeli bombs on the southern suburbs that resonated from the small opening of the window and the reverberating sound of my vampiric nail on the glass pane. I dragged my other hand across the entire glass window and stood bare-chested in front of the open window, smelling the wafting scent created by the destructive sounds. In moments like these, when sounds of bombs, fireworks, or music from a strange underground concert intensified at night, my color blindness intensified with them. That night, Beirut turned into gray hills, and the missiles turned into snow, failing to fall quietly on the ground. After that July evening, Beirut had reverted to a regular city that awoke from the screech of welded machines. Their sounds rose all day long and chased the city's residents towards the sea or the airport. I couldn't move around in the streets without toxins infiltrating my veins, and when the street fell silent for a while, during suspicious moments of political anxiety, a car exploded, almost out of boredom. At night, another city emerges. It is inhabited by those returning to their homes, exhausted and disquieted. Among all this ash, I decided to build my garden. I put my camera on the side of the road, recording the movements of the objects and their shadows. What do I put in my mouth? After making 3 grainy films to ward off the noise, I decided to move away from non-fictional experimentation to make narrative films, full of songs, starting with a film starring Ziad Shakaroun and Sandy Shamoun, in which the two meet in almost miraculous singing scenes. I wanted singing to be a declaration of love that felt like the fall of eternity into time, similar to the ecstatic moments of participating in a revolutionary political act. The characters overcome their reality through song and love as fragments of political miracles. I walked around the city day and night, stealing scenes everywhere, and saw Ziad and Sandy in every bar I entered. I heard their voices in every love song, even the bad Christian rock songs that I like to listen to when I drove at night. I saw their two bodies embracing inside every car that passed through the light changes of Beirut's tunnel. On August 4, 2020, a gas pane fell on Ziad's body, tore his back, and the sound entered every home in Beirut, shutting everyone up. Since that sunset, and every time a scene from the film appears in my mind, I see Ziad and Sandy standing in front of me, side by side, without moving. Sandy opens her mouth without making a sound and holds Ziad's hand, who opens his mouth, but he has no tongue. They are standing on black, sunburned asphalt with two black holes on their faces where their mouths are supposed to be. The two holes look like two eyes, and the asphalt draws a burned upper mouth. This new face looks at me, waiting for a song. It's waiting.
I'm going to read a poem by Eliana Alta. So, with P of passion, possibilities, prayer, poetry, power, pardon. A of Amar, agape, anti-imperialist, ancestors, again, ahead and alive, pa, pa, pa. L of light, land and love. E of effort, esperanza and east. S of seed, sun, son, somos, sea, song. Less, less, less. T of tree, tent, trust, territory, tenderness, touch. I of imagine, invest, insist. N of nature, nurture, night and niños. N of now, now, now. E of eres, estamos, espera. E of enormous endurance, Palestine.
I'll be reading excerpts from the conclusion of James Baldwin's essay, Nothing Personal. To become educated, as all tyrants have always known, is to become inaccessibly independent. It is to acquire a dangerous way of assessing danger, and it is to hold in one's hands a means of changing reality. People are defeated, or go mad, or die in many, many ways, some in the silence of that valley where I couldn't hear nobody pray, and many in the public, sounding horror where no cry or lament or song or hope can disentangle itself from the roar. And so we go under, victims of that universal cruelty which lives in the heart and in the world, victims of the universal indifference to the fate of another, victims of the universal fear of love, proof of the absolute impossibility of achieving a life without love. One day, perhaps, unimaginable generations hence, we will evolve into the knowledge that human beings are more important than real estate, and will permit this knowledge to become the ruling principle of our lives. For I do not for an instant doubt, and I will go to my grave believing that we can build Jerusalem if we will. And love will simply have no choice but to go into battle with space and time, and furthermore to win. I know we often lose, and that the death or destruction of another is infinitely more real and unbearable than one's own. I think I know how many times one has to start again, and how often one feels that one cannot start again. And yet, on pain of death, one can never remain where one is. The light, one will perish without the light. But my God, in that darkness, which was the lot of my ancestors and my own state, what a mighty fire burned in that darkness of rape and degradation, that fine flying froth and mist of blood. Through all that terror and in all that helplessness, a living soul moved and refused to die. We really emptied oceans with a homemade spoon and tore down mountains with our hands. It is a mighty heritage. It is a human heritage, and it is all there is to trust. For nothing is fixed. Forever and forever and forever, it is not fixed. The earth is always shifting. The light is always changing. The sea does not cease to grind down rock. Generations do not cease to be born, and we are responsible to them because we are the only witnesses they have. The sea rises, the light fails, lovers cling to each other, and children cling to us. The moment we cease to hold each other, the moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out.
Apologies to All the People in Lebanon by June Jordan, published in 1982. I didn't know, and nobody told me, and what could I do or say anyway? They said, you shot the London ambassador, and when that wasn't true, they said so. What? They said, you shelled the northern villages, and when UN forces reported that was not true, because your side of the ceasefire was holding since more than a year before, they said so. What? They said they wanted simply to carve a 25-mile buffer zone, and then they ravaged your water supplies, your electricity, your hospitals, your schools, your highways and byways all the way north to Beirut, because they said this was their quest for peace. They blew up your homes and demolished the grocery stores and blocked the Red Cross and took away doctors to jail, and they cluster-bombed girls and boys whose bodies swelled purple and black into twice the original size, and tore the buttocks from a 4-month-old baby, and then they said this was brilliant military accomplishment, and this was done, they said, in the name of self-defense. They said that is the noblest concept of mankind. Isn't that obvious? They said something about never again. And then they made close to 1 million human beings homeless in less than 3 weeks, and they killed or maimed 40,000 of your men and your women and your children. But I didn't know, and nobody told me, and what could I do or say anyway? They said they were victims. They said you were Arabs. They called your apartments and gardens guerrilla strongholds. They called the screaming devastation that they created the rubble. Then they told you to leave, didn't they? Didn't you read the leaflets that they dropped from their hotshot fighter jets? They told you to go. 135,000 Palestinians in Beirut, and why didn't you take the hint? Go. There was the Mediterranean. You could walk into the water and stay there. What was the problem? I didn't know, and nobody told me, and what could I do or say anyway? Yes, I did know it was the money I earned as a poet that paid for the bombs and the planes and the tanks that they used to massacre your family. But I am not an evil person. The people of my country aren't so bad. You can expect but so much from those of us who have to pay taxes and watch American TV. You see my point. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Then I'm going to read the poem When the Sky is No Longer from this year's collection of poems of Lena Kalaf Tufaha. When the sky is no longer. A womb. Prayers now besieged inside your throat hum over whistles and shrieks. The long hole puncturing what was. Silence is the first casualty. You no longer fear the claymore, not because you are brave, but because you've learned that death arrives noiselessly, hovering in the bowels of a missile, that the claymore means you're alive and someone else is dying. You note the bleakness of your own heart, wanting to live in spite of this.
Hi everyone, I'll be reading a poem called Sunbird. The center spreads open, diffused, free-flowing, mollifying the sea, the Mediterranean. The water has no center, it is not a border, it is a history, a language, says Zain Jugadar. Zahra stands breathing in a vista void of centuries of communing and being in consonance. The wall towers over her, grey, concrete, exposed. Big black block letters, signature wands, prohibited area. Locked inside, the surface of separation hinders her vision when her eyelashes touch the West Bank and Gaza without wars. Contracted bodies unfurl, ebullient red-lipped toddlers embalmed in Fakwa iris, effloresce in endless acres of unsullied land that harvest generational affinities, saturated in narratives of shared place and cooperation. Rooted connections to landscape that cannot be severed, waters of life, of light, erased demarcations, opaqueness, the waters of the Mediterranean cannot be separated, reminds Jugadar. They inundate with those of the Atlantic. Zahra falls into shallow silence, land and waters on which to whisper rest and resistance. She pauses in reminiscence and steadfastness, girdled by olive branches, compassed by deep seas. She extends into the olive groves that rocked her to sleep. The fragrance of Jaffa oranges escorted her at nightfall like stars shooting light. The Mediterranean waves she doused in. Turquoise waters, never blue or green, an infusion of this choreography, its people and its plenitude. Interruption unsettles. In these rituals of tension and healing, the individual is collective. Rest is resistance, says the Nat Ministry. Go slow, learn your own history, listen, it says. Every day is a manifestation of Sumud, evidence of surviving or not, migrating in dreams that heal, of slowing down from a life that is again and again being taken away by oppression, working fast to dwindle the values of a people who transform from the edges, cemented by occupation, more resilient each day. Ancestors who have built through being witnesses of each other's pain and joy, their allegiance to autonomy and integrity, garnering the strength of their ancestral spirit by togetherness, echoing onto one another, seasons and confines. Space that breeds fear, stench, the color of callousness, averse to lives that resist colonial spew. Sea without a center, the wind, a Palestine sunbird's metallic blue feather, glides from side to side. Barely brushes the ground and spires high again, a kite that ameliorates exhaustion, harbingers possibility, the wind that whirls at a supple speed on that side of the wall which must fall.
I will be reading 3 short poems of my own work. The first one is called Rome. When you read about the history of Rome and learn of all this endless violence, the random alliances and battle lines, the decades of devastation and redrawn maps, the meaninglessness of it all from our perspective, no matter how apocalyptic any event might have been, no matter how epic any glory was attained, finality was elusive. The years just kept rolling on, different rulers, different wars, more random alliances. You begin to get the feeling that their main enemy was time, that their greatest tragedy was they could never win the war to finally settle history. They battled under the endless crawl of the ages, each one invariably replacing the last. The second short poem is called The Man at the End of the Chapter. What greater testament to the power of greed as the driving force of history than the fact that when the Europeans stumbled upon America in search for a route to China, they never stopped trying to reach China. In fact, they saw both continents of the great Turtle Island as an obstacle, keeping them from easy passage to the silk, tea, and trinkets of the East. And so they slashed and burned, and raped and killed, laid waste and trailed, and farmed and built their way across the width of the landmass, until the first white man lay eyes on the Pacific Ocean from the shores of California, serene with the knowledge that only water now separates him from Asia. This last one is untitled. It speaks for itself. What have we done to this earth? Look at what we've done. Everywhere you look, there is a gaping wound, festering with our worst qualities, manifest. Contempt for anything living and disregard for the future. The body politique of billions of brains hamstrung in hand-to-mouth existences, with their daily collective toil out dwarfing the building of the pyramids on a daily basis. The geological record will show us as little more than a natural disaster. And as our light beams out into the cosmos, there may be someone in the distant future observing us here today. Let them jot down the lessons that we are broadcasting. Let them try to seed this empty universe with a benevolent mind, free from our fatal hunger, to either celebrate the abundance of this life or to leave the stars untouched, swimming in their eternal silence, forever unbeknownst. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carol Sansour. I'm a Palestinian poet. I will be reading one poem of my work called معنى الإزاحة. أتعلمين معنى الإزاحة يا سحر؟ أنا أيضا لا أعلم. يبدو أنه مصطلح يشبه رحلتك الأخيرة، حيث خسرت أكثر من نصف وزنك هناك على حافة الربيع، حيث كتبت لي رسالة تقولين لا أقوى على الكلام والكتابة صعبة جدا. كنا قبل ما يبدو أنه ألف ربيع شربنا كأس العروبة. أخبرتك أني غضبانة جدا، وأخبرتني أنك ممتلئة بالأمل. كم كانت قاتمة البلاد، وكم كنت توزعين الفرح، تطبخين لمشردي الصحراء وتقنعينهم أنهم يأكلون من أجل يافا. هلكتيني زيتون وزعتر. سألت الله أن يمنحك وطن فلم يفعل كعادته، فاخترعت وطنا من دراجة هوائية. أدندن أغنية جورجية قديمة: في الشرق لا وطن دون حرب. كم كرهت أغنياتي. على شواطئ بلاد العبيد سقطنا، وسقطت قلوبنا في كمين السر. اعترفت أنت أكتر شخص غبي بحبه. أكدت قرأنا عن نفس الشيخ. بلا بلاد بنيت في قلبي خيمة، وحملنا معا قصائد الرتيبة. بقيت أرواحنا كائنات مكسورة ومدنا مليئة بالخطط. أقنعتك أن حب الأوطان إهانة لا تنسى ولا تغتفر. أقنعتني أننا هنا بين فرخة وعكا على شاطئ نابليو وفي بيروت والقاهرة وصنعاء تحت نفس الغيمة. لا شيء يميزنا غير تفاوت مصائر الجنون. لا أعلم معنى الإزاحة يا سحر، غير أنني تحاشيت طقس دفنك وتعاملت مع موتك على أنه رحلة إلى عمان، حيث كنت تلجئين بعد تعب. على سبيل الوداع المؤجل أشتري 13 زنبقة صفراء، وحين يسألني بائع الورد عن الدموع أخبره أني حلمت بثورة ومات كل الأصدقاء.
I am Noor Abed. I'm reading an excerpt from Salah Hamouri, political prisoner from Aufar prison. The text title is How Long Will I Carry the Number 1124052? This occupation does not consider or treat us as human beings who have the right to live like other people do. Everything in prison is organized in order to make even the life we live outside the prison walls difficult for us. We steal moments of life and joy between one arrest and another, as we have become afraid of excessive happiness and stable life for fear of the next shock. We do not have enough courage to plan for the distant future for fear of disappointment, which creates an atmosphere of tension and instability for us and all those who surround us. Ironically, from the moment we enter prison, our dreams grow bigger and bigger, and we begin to regret every moment of joy and happiness that we did not take advantage of in the world of freedom. These dreams begin to intersect with the world we left behind. One moment we imagine that it is possible for us, for our daydreams to intersect after we are liberated with the reality we left behind. The only explanation for this phenomenon for us is that the world stopped at the moment of our arrest. So we build a world of imagination and a reality of dreams. However, the most difficult and painful thing to realize is that the bigger our dreams, the narrower our reality, so that our dreams of freedom, partners, friends, and family collide within seconds with our bitter reality. We shortly discover that the ceiling of our ambitions is to be forgotten by the prison guard for 5 more minutes before locking us back into our cells at 6 p.m., or to hear a song on one of the radios that reminds us of our beautiful days outside these prison walls. The worst place a person can be sent is prison. It is a place like no other in the world. It crushes us and our dreams, ambitions, and hopes like an olive in a press. What I hate most in general is the state of waiting, a feeling that is intensified in prison. The draining effect of waiting in prison is like global warming, draining the world outside the prison walls. But what is on my mind these days is that if I hate waiting while I am a few kilometers away from my homeland and my city of Jerusalem, what would waiting be like if I accepted to be exiled from my homeland? I know that love for one's homeland is a one-sided love affair that brings only pain, suffering, and loss, because it robbed me of the best years of my life, stole my youth, and made me much older than my age. Yet, I adore my homeland and I am sure of the sacrifice. While the homeland responds with, "Is there anything more?" Most people see this as a waste of life, but real life lies in the quest for freedom and sacrifice, not in waiting for someone to set us free.